We are live.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Wendy Rose Williams, and I'd like to welcome you to the Waking Up Spiritually podcast. Gregg, Kirk, and I are here twice a month on the second and fourth Sundays of the month at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm a past life adventure guide. I trained with Dr. Brian Weiss, and I help people release pain, anxiety, and depression, as well as free up stuck creativity so that you can live a much happier, healthier life and feel like you're on purpose. And my website is wendyrosewilliams.com. So I'm going to now turn it over to Gregg, and he's going to introduce himself as well as today's topic. So again, welcome, whether you're here live or whether you're catching us later on the broadcasts on the wakingupspiritually.com website.
Hello, I'm Gregg Kirk. You can find me at greggkirk.com. That's spelled Greggkirk. I'm a light worker, energy healer. I also help people with chronic illness like Lyme disease, heal through herbal treatments, but I do energy work. I was originally trained in Reiki back in 1997, and now I do remote sessions over the phone, and I also do in-person sessions using tuning forks. And I also run a online group healing circle that meets every Sunday. So we just met earlier today at noon Eastern time. And those have been some really great sessions. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, go to greggkirk.com and hit the contact link. And you can also hit the events link if you're interested in those online group healings. So speaking of all that stuff, recently I've been getting a lot of great information from the online group healing circles, as well as individual sessions. So some of this information has been lining up, not so coincidentally, through passages I've been not so coincidentally being reminded of or seeing through online links from the Law of One. And now, Wendy and I have talked about this a little bit in other sessions, but basically, a recap of what the Law of One is all about. It's also called the Ra, R-A material. You can look it up. It's out there on Amazon and other book, Kindle and so forth. It is information that was channeled through three people who set up like a channeling circle back in the mid-80s, 1980s. They came across a being that they had never contacted before, who really wanted to give them a lot of information, and over the course of years, they got this information. The information was so startling, it's filled 5 volumes. Or not so startling, but it's so expansive that it filled 5 volumes.
It's startling too.
It's startling too, exactly. That's what I was going to kind of correct myself on that. It's information that explains things that have been kind of a mystery in the world, things like the meaning of life. Where did the pyramids come from? Are there aliens around us? What are those things that we see in the sky we call UFOs? I mean, just across the board, down into occultism and down into ways to heal. I mean, just amazing information. So whenever I'm a part of some groups that share passages, because it's in ways it's almost like the Bible or some other rabbinical reading, where there's so much information shared, you can't remember all of it, of course, and people share different bits of it too, because different bits of it kind of pertain to the things we're going through now on Earth and so forth. And again, this stuff was predicted all the way back in 1985. Or that was roughly around the time. And so it's just in my opinion, it's the best information that we have today that's out there. It's better. I think it's better than the Bible. So those of you who are, who feel strongly about that, I'm sorry, but they actually talk about, they debunk a few things in the Bible, but they also give a full range of other information that backs up a lot of what the Bible says. So it's just fascinating. Anyway, so this information that I've been getting for the past 2 or 3 weeks pertains to what we call our higher selves or our oversouls, and how basically we are linked in this lifetime, energetically and metaphysically. I find this fascinating information. And of course, lo and behold, about a week and a half ago, I'm a part of this random, not random group. I'm a part of this group online that sent this random link discussing and backing up a lot of the stuff that I'm receiving in terms of how the oversoul and the higher self work. So without further ado, unless Wendy, if you'd like to tee up anything else.
I just want to comment. I love those powerful synchronicities, and
Yeah.
I don't really believe in random anymore at this point. I think things just really do come together really well. So sure, let's jump into the PowerPoint.
Totally agree. Okay, so let me get this going here. And okay, sorry for the technical pause, but here we go. Share screen, and here we go. So I'm approaching this presentation. Come on, here we go. And let me move this around so we can actually read the, I'll move this over here. So it's a broad discussion today. It's about the oversoul and the higher self, and also a little bit about alchemy. And we'll talk about what that really means. How to become, a more magical you is really what it is. Alchemy back in the old days was basically the belief that you could turn metals that are not very valuable into metals that are, like gold, turning lead into gold and so forth. So that's how it originally started. And then it got into a bit of occultism. And then, so now just the term alchemy is talking about changing something that's of lesser value into something of greater value. More or less, that's what it means. So let's get into it here. Your oversoul. Now, Wendy and I had this discussion before we jumped on, because we wanted to better define our understandings of oversoul and higher self. So through the law of one and the information I'm getting, to me, higher self and oversoul are interchangeable. So I prepared the slides that way. But Wendy pointed something out, that she has a different meaning for higher self. So I'm going, and I agree with her. And I have a slide on it, as a matter of fact. So let's start by saying the oversoul, I'm calling it a higher self here in the deck, is the fractal version of you, the multi-dimensional self that experiences all of your past lives, your future lives, and is on the verge of communing with the creator. So let me unpack all of that. There's a lot of information in there. Let's call it the oversoul for the sake of discussion right now. Your oversoul is, and the way I'm physically seeing it when I'm doing these remote sessions, is it's a towering version of you, like a 40-foot version of you that looks almost like a statue. And then the rest of your lives, I see almost like decks of cards that lead up to the oversoul. And these lives can be plucked out. And you can look at, and if you look at like the card, it's kind of transparent. You can see little spots that are dark, that are blockages or traumas or whatever. And then that's how we, in the remote sessions that I do, that's how we kind of address things. Now, if you look at this, and the way I was looking at things prior to getting this new information was, I think in Wendy's training as well, we both understood that past life trauma or a past life block can result in problems in your life now. So it's when I first read Brian Weiss's Many Lives, Many Masters, that was one of the first things he went after was, if somebody was hung, for instance, in a past life, and that can explain why they have asthma now, or a thyroid problem, or some sort of breathing problem, or a problem with the throat, And so that was like a revelation to me back when I first learned that idea, 30 years ago, maybe, or 25. So it became a hallmark of energy sessions that I do today. It's to look for blocks of any kind that might have occurred in this life, but definitely look into the past life ones, because those are the ones that hang around the longest, of course, and can cause ongoing trouble. all the way rippling through the other lives. And so as I've been seeing this image, it's like a giant version of you and a deck of cards leading up to the, your oversoul. And, sometimes I get an overall transparent view of it, and I see all these blocks going on through different lives. So obviously it's something that needs to be addressed as you're doing energy healing. So the oversoul is, during healing sessions, I've always asked for the guides, guardian angels, healing entities, and non-physical beings who have the best interest of the patient in mind to come and aid us in the session. And I just thought, all right, and I would see vaguely, it's something like what is going on the slide here. A group of people, a group of sometimes not even quote unquote people, might be aliens or whatever, or disembodied spirits, energy bodies who have never taken a body before. And they look more or less like the forms in the background there, just kind of blobs of light. I see that. So this is sort of close to what I see in my mind during an energy session, where the patient is the darker form in the middle. I usually don't see that much detail. Like you see features on faces and things like that, and some colors. I usually don't see that. I see more of like the light blobs in the background. So, that was something that I always understood in sessions too. Like, okay, these beings are here and they're coming to help, and they point out past life problems and other problems, and might give some great information that's pertinent at the time. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, I got, as I was, that's part of the preamble that I do during a healing session, is inviting these people in. And all of a sudden, one of them said, your oversoul is guide number 1. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. Because that's the one that knows all your past lives, your future lives that you're going to have, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. So that's the one we should really be talking to. Now, another person who has dealt with this kind of stuff, this healing work, is a woman named Dolores Cannon, who was passed on. She passed away in 2014, but she does hypnosis sessions, and she started off in the same kind of way. She kind of had this kind of revelation in her healing practice, where she started off Brian Weiss style, like, let's get rid of the past blocks from past lives. But all of a sudden, these beings started coming in, like Metatron and all these other higher level beings. And then the oversoul started speaking. She was just getting this universal knowledge and wisdom coming through just these mundane healing sessions. And so I knew about that, but this was the first time where an oversoul came in and said, hey, we're guide number 1 in relation to this person that we're healing. I was like, oh, wow, that is so cool. Within 2 days, I got this passage from the Law of One that more or less said, yeah, the oversoul is guide number 1. They didn't use that term, but they said that's the most direct guide, who's trying to guide you through your life now and your past lives and so forth. And what's the purpose of this oversoul? I just thought, well, it's just kind of like like Frank Zappa has this song called The Central Scrutinizer. Like, isn't this the central scrutinizer, looking over everything and scrutinizing? And in the Law of One, they say, well, actually what's going on is your oversoul is, because I was saying, oh, the oversoul is you in the future. And that's how they started to refer to it in the Law of One. But then they went further and said, well, where the oversoul is, there's no future, there's no past. It's in a
time's continuous, so it brings that all together.
It's in a multi-dimensional phase. Mm-hmm. So, but it has traveled through all of the densities. And, again, I don't want to get too down into the Law of One knowledge and stuff, but densities are like levels of vibration that you're on, and your idea is to, travel up through them. And we're in 3rd density now. And actually Yeshua, or Christ, was in 4th density, visiting all of us in a 3rd density state of being. And the 4th density to us looks like magic. The things that he did are actually very commonplace things that a 4th density person can do. Well, our oversoul is all the way up in the 7th density register, waiting to go to 8th density. And in the Law of One, they say, When you reach 8th density, you become a part of the face of God or the creator. You become a part of the universe. So you get absorbed into the infinite intelligence of God. So that came through the law of one stuff. And then I was having a session recently where it was a young man I was helping, and we were doing a session, and his oversoul echoed that and said, we're waiting, oversoul's waiting. And what are we waiting for? We're waiting for more or less what they didn't call it fuel, but energy. Mm-hmm. So, if you look at that example that I kind of illustration of, here's your oversoul, and then there's like a deck of cards leading up to you. Imagine a cosmic energy going through that apparatus and how it can get hung up in certain areas. And that energy ultimately needs to go up to your oversoul. And your oversoul is harvesting this energy and waiting. And it can't move on to the creator until it reaches a point of critical mass of capacity. So if you have these blockages, it's not going to get the cosmic energy it needs. Plus, and this was the revelation that I got from this person's oversoul. When you unwind a block, unwind a past problem, a trauma, especially when you use things like forgiveness and gratitude, it sends a pop of energy up to the oversoul that is like really good quality fuel, high octane fuel, if you will. So that not only does it open up that block, but it sends this energy on up through your pranic tube, up to not the creator, but to your oversoul. And boom, it's like your oversoul is like, oh, that felt good. So anyway, so that's the point. So it's funny because the patient said, well, that, waiting to be absorbed into the creator, it sounds like death. And instantly the response was, that's your limited perspective from where you are in 3D.
It sounds like starting to live to me. It sounds like the opposite.
Yeah, they said this is the goal. This is not death. This is the goal. This is why you're here, and why you've had all these lives, and why we do the healing work, and why we go through all these experiences is because the quality of energy after we go through and forgive and go through, that quality of energy is so heightened that's what the oversoul collects. So that's the revelation that I got here. And I know it's true. It's I've never heard it from anyone else, but it's just 100%, it's ringing all my bells, all my intuitive bells. So anyway, so as it says in the slide, establishing this connection within instead of without, instead of looking for salvation, instead looking for the kingdom of heaven within you is the first area to start making this connection. So this is the slide I created today that speaks to, what Wendy was saying about, well, there is a higher self too, right? It's not just the oversoul. And I'm agreeing with her on this. And what is the higher self? And Wendy we'll see what your reaction is to where it resides, because it's a physical location. And this is another thing that's astounded me. Last week during our online healing circles, it appeared to me for the first time ever. And then lo and behold, I find this image so look at the image in the middle. See the person that's in the foreground that's split in half, but has this star, ball of light. It's a little bit, I see it a little bit lower on the person. I see it in the person's pranic tube, actually over to the right. Look at that image, and where I put the blue dot is where I see this ball. So the pranic tube is a 2-inch diameter tube that runs through you energetically. And it can get clogged up and all that, it's like a drain, it can get clogged up. But this is where, so I'd gotten the information that this is where the creator energy resides in you, because each of us, this whole idea of the kingdom of heaven is within you, and that each of us has a piece of God within us. I intuitively knew that, and I've been reading other healers and other people talking about this idea. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be shown like exactly where it is. And this is what I got right behind. So you have a front and a back to your heart chakra. In the very center where the pranic tube is, that's where I'm seeing it. So I'm seeing it as this light ball, like we see down here in this person who's kind of split in half. But also if you look above the person, see, and let me explain the image a little more. So on the left, we see someone who's going through their lives, and then as they die, so what you don't see here is there's a little like an embryo, and then it goes through the different stages of physical life, and then when the person dies, this ball transfers and then goes to another embryo, and then boom, 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 all the way to death, and it just keeps going on and on. And if you look above, this is the past lives that this person has led, like starting from being a mineral to plants to, single cell organisms, all that kind of stuff, different animals, and then going on up into human again. So this ball here, this is what I would call the higher self. This is because what's going, and this is another thing that I got. This ball or this is where God, the creator, is connected to you. And then there is 50% of it is how you are expressing your individuality in this lifetime or in any lifetime. So at this point in time, your higher self is 50% creator energy, 50% you as you are expressing yourself in this lifetime. So there is this, Yeshua knew this in the book of Luke, when Christ was being asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God was coming. He said, kingdom of God is not coming with signs to be observed, nor will they say, lo, here it is. The kingdom of God is within you, and it is right there behind the intersection of creator and individual expression of yourself in this lifetime is located as an orb in the center of your pranic tube behind your heart chakra. So that's some bold statements there by me, but again, this rings all my bells. I think this is fascinating stuff. Wendy, I'm going to stop for a second and see how you feel about all this. And I'm perfectly fine if you think, Gregg, I don't know, I'm not feeling some.
Well, I think this makes so much sense to me intuitively, Gregg, because for it to be where our heart is, I mean, that just makes perfect sense in every way. And I'm noticing a pattern of the clients that I work with, because in the comprehensive past life regression sessions we do, they're either 2.5 hours or 4 hours. One of the 4 major things that we do is connect the person with their guide. And I'm noticing a pattern over the last 6 months or so that more and more people are finding their own higher self as their guide. So they're not relating the same way to the concept of a quote, more external guide, like an ascended master or an angel or an ancestor.
How long has this been going on with you?
Probably about 6 months. And I think it correlates pretty well with the pandemic, because I think one of the gifts of the pandemic, the silver linings, besides the earth healing herself in so many ways and bringing down the temperature and cleaning up the waters and other things, is we've been forced to go within. Because people are at home and they're not out and about in the same way they were, rushing around to work and picking up takeout dinner and going to the gym and, all the other million things that we were rushing around doing. Right. So I think this is just kind of coming together with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'd need to understand more, as you were talking about going up to the higher levels of vibration or frequency, the other higher levels of consciousness. I personally don't relate to like 7th, or these don't sound like the dimensions to me.
They're not dimensions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I was listening and I was like, wait a minute, these are not dimensions, because we can be at higher dimensions and still be very much in a body and be here on the earth.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
thank you for
Yes.
making that distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my comment so far.
Just to distinguish, the density, according to the raw beings in the law of one, is a rate of frequency. So it's like a band of frequency, like on a radio or something. So, and if we want, we can do a whole other session or a whole other broadcast on it. There's specific things that take place. So first density is really the density of minerals and plants. So, the raw beings are saying they have a consciousness, and I agree. I've had just recently did a session with somebody who I saw them as a rock, as rocks. I've seen other people as crystals and things like that.
Absolutely.
It's usually crystals. Crystals are.
Go ahead.
Yeah, crystals are a higher order than like limestone or something, but So if you're going to be, a mineral, crystal is like, you're a higher.
You're rocking it.
Right, exactly. But then it goes into second density, and that is like the animal kingdom, the insect kingdom, and some plants. And those beings, it's fascinating what the raw beings say about that. Is I always thought, oh man, of course, man is at third density. And then like I mentioned earlier, fourth density is a density where you're starting to understand love and wisdom. And you have abilities where you can help heal, and you can bilocate. You can do a lot of amazing things, that look amazing to us. But
telepathy, and psychic abilities,
absolutely, all that stuff, psychic abilities, yeah, 100%. That said, for a second level being, like your dog or your cat, what we do must look like magic to them, because we do some pretty amazing things, and we've created tools, and we've got stuff, we can turn lights on in a house. That would be like magic to me if I were a dog or a cat, But anyway, so it's interesting that I always thought like, oh, man has really screwed up. He's tamed animals, and that's not their natural nature. And, we put them in zoos and things like that. I always thought that our interaction with the animal kingdom was always a bad one. But the raw beings had a very interesting perspective about it. They say that whenever we take on a pet or we interact with second density beings, that we actually begin teaching them how to be third density, because that's their next progression anyway. And what these beings what the second density beings don't understand is the density of third density is all about individual expression and individual awareness. And they don't naturally get that. They're herding. They're not herding. I have a herding dog, but they're pack. They travel in packs and little tribes and whatever. So they have more of a group mentality. Their individuality is not very well expressed usually. It's the ones that do are beginning to understand third density. So I always thought, we're screwing up animals by taming them and so forth. Not so. We're actually helping them. I thought that was fascinating.
I think we're helpmates to one another. I mean, that's why I see them as animal companions, because they've got some abilities that we don't have. I know animals can be fantastic at seeing energy and clearing energy from our homes, for instance. Yeah. And when we don't understand it, we can say, why is that crazy dog barking in the corner? There's nothing there. Well, just because we can't see it doesn't mean there's nothing there. Because my cat's a really efficient clearing, protecting and clearing type energy. Awesome. And also I do agree with the pack animal. Dogs certainly are known for that. And cats can do it too, or at least they can tune into our energy. I was fascinated. I had friends who lived with me for 8 months a couple of years ago. And they said whenever I was coming home, and I was on a completely random schedule at that time, they said they would always know when I was coming home because my cat would go and sit by the garage door about 5 minutes before I came home. Yeah. So it was interesting that, he was acting like a pack animal. It's like, yeah. I know when she's coming.
Yeah. my dog does the same thing. And I'd say also another role of animals. So you're absolutely right. They have physical abilities that we don't have. They're very psychic. Animals are just naturally psychic, especially tuning in to whoever they bond with. So, dogs and cats are very similar in that way. And it's, there's been studies done.
Yes.
Describing exactly what you're describing, where, they'll video a dog or a cat, and they'll videotape the master, or whatever you want to call it, I don't know what I want to say the right thing.
Their person.
Their person, yeah. And they'll be in a store, they'll be at work. And I've seen, TV shows where they'll show, and the minute that they decide I'm going to go home that's the minute that the dog or cat goes by the window or the door. It's
right.
inexplicable unless you understand about psychic attunement and so forth.
Right.
Go ahead.
And they did a lot of experiments. Sometimes they would send the person home on foot, like they'd drop them off a couple blocks from home. They would sometimes send them in a taxi or in an Uber. So It's not that they're like hearing the car or smelling the car. It's, they tested for all those variables. And it's not that it's 4:05, every day. Right. It's just, it's some pretty interesting studies.
Yeah, no, like I said, it was so amazing that it was literally within a minute of the person deciding, like they hadn't even started to leave or anything like that. It was the moment that they decided they were going to go home. That's when it kicked in. Yes. But another thing that I've noticed, because I've actually done some sessions on dogs who were getting ready to pass over or had infirmities, that they've communicated to me that their main role is to take on their energetic shields, more or less. And I think cats are the same way. So they are here to be our companion and just to take it on. And so that's why they're like, and then they don't mind it, so they, I've just seen it. I help so many patients of Lyme disease, and just watching, videos of people I know or worked with where, they're lying in bed all day, their dog or cat is right there with them. And they're just, it's like, this Reiki style of absorbing all the negativity.
Right. Working to heal the person.
And a lot of times they end up getting sick from it. I see that too, getting tumors and things like that. But they've taken it on. So they're happy to do it. It's just unfortunate that sometimes they take on a lot and then it causes them to pass over. Anyway, fascinating stuff, all of this. So just wanted to continue on here. So this is the raw. Now we are talking about the oversoul, and let's discuss the purpose of it real quick. So backing all the way up, we had a broadcast about the meaning of life, and I was talking about the law of one, and it was established that in the law of one that the meaning of our lives is to help the Creator know itself by knowing ourselves. Okay, so the Creator created creation and then since that point onward the Creator has been endeavoring to know itself, and it does that through its creation, us being it. And so more or less we are cells on the body of God, and it's our role to get to know ourselves and clear ourselves out and all that kind of stuff. And so that this information is not only just sent up to the oversoul, it's sent up to the Creator eventually. So in order to do our job, the reason that we came to be properly, we got to remove blocks within all of our lifetimes to open the flow of energy to our oversouls. And the oversoul can offer guidance, but not directly help us, because it honors the law of free will. And like I said, the quality of energy. So they talk about this in the law of one. There was a period of time where oversouls interacted and gave, the beings the answers to the test, or did their homework for them, as I've said. And the quality of the energy that came through was not good. So this is the reason that the Creator created this veiling. So it's a reason that we don't remember our past lives very well, if at all. And it's the reason we have set up these struggles in our lives. It sounds crazy to some people, but when you pass on from a life, one of the things that you do is you figure out what kind of life you're going to have in your next lifetime, and you set up some goals for yourself, and not all of them are easy, So because knowing that when you do overcome a particularly hard hurdle, that the quality of the energy that is sent up to your oversoul and ultimately to the creator, it's high quality. So,
we just learned so much through the struggle, and it also makes us really appreciate the joyous times and the good times when things are going really well, because there's some contrast.
Exactly. So the completion of block removals and the harvesting of this energy to the oversoul, to the final absorption up to the creator. That's the whole goal of all this. And so, I was talking about that young man I was doing a session on. He's like, "This sounds like death," and the oversoul said, "No, this is how it is," and basically explained number 4 here on the slide to me. And I was like, "Wow, that's that." So that's how our energy is connected throughout time and space, and we are a multi-dimensional being. And then the final kind of information drop was, they were basically saying to me, "Gregg, how you've got that set up? The oversoul's here, and there's like a deck of cards." They're like, "That's all connected. It's not," and it's existing all at the same time. So you're all of that at once in a multi-dimensional, timeless place. So mind blown. Like, okay.
That's why The Matrix was such an excellent film. I mean, you can go back and watch that movie again and again and again, because they got so much of it right.
Yeah.
And they were able to visually, show and make it interesting, of how it's an illusion and more of what was really going on, behind the scenes.
Right. It's also why I was corrected, because I started saying to patients, as we were doing energy work, I started to say, "Oh, your oversoul is you in the future." And they let me say it for like 1 or 2 sessions until until I got this info. And then they said, "Actually, to be more accurate, you're all of this at once."
I was going to say, it's you now. It's not your future higher self. It's the larger embodiment, the more complete embodiment.
And this embodiment exists outside of time. So
right.
That's
right.
why. But all of these past lives and everything else are layers of the entire picture of you. So you're all of this at once.
Because past, present, future, that's our human construct to simplify.
Right.
So,
right.
Because we don't normally go around spouting quantum string theory.
Right, exactly. And the way I've come to understand it since then is, like part of you is in this time continuum, the earth, past life, future life, current life now, but you're also connected to this oversoul that's outside of time. So that's probably the best description. Now, here's a slide that Wendy created that I'll let her take over.
Yes, this was actually from Divine Feminine Reawakening. And it's our prerogative. It's not just a woman's prerogative. We've all been both masculine and male and female and everything in between. And we've got masculine and feminine within us now. But it is our prerogative to know of magic and to practice magic and to use our knowledge to help ourselves as well as to help the world. And so I'm obviously playing with this Marianne Williamson, who wrote Return to Love and was a recent presidential candidate. So it's just being able to, lean into that, because a lot of us became socialized over different lifetimes and just have this perception that magic is bad or scary or that sort of thing, or can have the same bias or prejudice toward witchcraft. And they're just tools. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me to say money is the root of all evil. Money's just, it doesn't, it's not bad or good. It's what are you doing with it? Maybe you're doing marvelous philanthropy with it. Something very uplifting with it. And same thing with magic, because 2020, this very interesting, challenging year, was foretold to be the year that magic returns. And a lot of people were just, including me, were just hooting and hollering and, very excited last December when we were hearing all that. And we'd forgotten, because we've been pretty removed from it and pretty removed from our fairy selves, our earth selves, our nature, our primal self. We've gotten pretty removed from all that as we sit in our heated homes with our computers and all our other electronics. And we'd forgotten that, guess what? Magic, yes, very wonderful, very amazing, very powerful, also super messy. And boy, did we get that reminder in 2020, because it's not something that you can control. It's more of a process of surrendering and just working to be in integrity and looking what your intentions are. If you are going to do some ritual or have some wonderful practices, what's the intention behind it? Right. And another thing this makes me think of, we don't have a slide for it, but there also can be some very amazing beings of light that can come to us that are from off-world. I'm thinking specifically of Dr. Lorphan, Lorphan, who's a psychic surgeon from the Great White Brotherhood. And it's a very old-fashioned name. I wish I could rename it, but I just have to use the name I know it by. And it's it sounds like some horrible cult. And what it actually is this beautiful group of ascended beings who practiced white magic only. So that's why it was the Great White Brotherhood. And again, don't get too hung up on the brotherhood. It doesn't mean that women are excluded, because we've all been both. But that's just what I wanted to say.
Canadians in the Great White North.
That's right. Well, now we're back to those silly movies with what was it, Bob and Doug.
Right.
And I think it just takes us back to this, this place of alchemy and knowing that magic is within all of us, and just just taking a breath, because people are starting to connect in ways that they may not have expected, and are connecting with not only their intergalactic selves, meaning different planets and just different lifetimes, but are also connecting interdimensionally. And a lot of people have been confused, frightened, thrown off by that at times, and just like, well, what's with all this, all the fairies? And I don't understand this. And what's going on with all these mermaids that I'm dreaming about? Or what's going on with all these dragons? Because it's just a lot of things that were vilified, at different points, or that we were simply told that doesn't exist, that's not true, that's not possible. And honestly, what can be more true than your own dreams, your own meditations, your own experiences? So I just want to say, surrender to some of that alchemy and know yourself, and know that you've got that spiritual alchemy to turn some of that energy that doesn't serve you, that you don't need anymore, and turn it from dross into gold. And just alchemy to me is transformation, and it's an up leveling. It's turning what doesn't serve us, as I said, into something that's more magical, more wonderful, more useful.
Right. Very well said. So yeah, we're shifting now to the magical portion of our presentation. So all of that before was about Oversoul. Really, all of that work needs to take place before you effectively can do any kind of alchemy. I mean, you can still be effective on some level, but it's better when you're completely in tune with yourself. Of course, we are preferring that you dabble in white magic because everything I've understood about the darker magic is it comes back to you threefold, which I always, to
All
me,
magic does. I mean,
right, exactly.
all energy does. Energy
Right,
can't be created or destroyed, and what we
right.
put out is what's going to come back to us.
So think about that.
So
If you put
free
a
will
curse on,
choice.
right, you put a curse on somebody, it's going to come back on you threefold. When I got that information years and years ago, decades ago, I thought, well, why would anyone ever practice that? Whereas white magic, putting a charm on somebody or putting a, positive, healing thing on someone, well, you're going to get it back threefold. Well, of course, why wouldn't you do that instead? It just seems like a no-brainer to me. But we've all, especially those of us who are healers, have experienced lives where we did do the dark work, and I was told that years ago, which really upset me at the time. This is when I was going through my awakening. I thought, whoa, there's no ounce of me in my current being that would even be interested in that kind of work. And the practitioner who was doing the past life thing on me said, that's okay. Yeah, this is who you are now. You weren't that way back then, and we all need to, in order to understand the dark side, you got to be in it for a while.
Absolutely. And you've got to, and I mean, now that's embracing our shadow,
Right.
because you physically can't have just light. You need the dark too. Personally, I don't want to sleep with all the bright lights on. I'd like some dark. I just,
Yeah.
we need, I'm making it a silly example, but we need that contrast, because that's how we learn. It's just like, I have a lot of people tell me, well, I was never anyone famous. I was never a king or a queen or royalty. I was never, in those sorts of positions. And I find that anything's possible, of course, and that person's got to know themselves, but we often get some surprises during their actual session, because again, we learn from the contrast. We learn from being the king or the queen. We learn from being the servant, and you learn from being a good and just king, what that was like and what those experiences were. And you learn from being an absolute arrogant despot, who just ruthless and just kept everything good for himself and didn't share and was just off with their head. Well, you learn a lot from that too, because then you've got your life review, and you go on back to the light. You go to that life between lives state, and you get that debriefing from your council of elders and your guides and your own higher self and oversoul, and get to see what some of the ramifications of that were, which is why a lot of people fear their life review, and are just really concerned about it. That's been shown in NDE studies too, and near-death experience studies, that a lot of people are very concerned about the life review. And I think we just have to know that we're just always loved, and that our own most harsh critic is ourselves. So as Gregg said, just that forgiveness, including forgiving ourselves and just doing better. What's the quote about, as we know better, we do better? Maya Angelou. We just continue to do better.
So this information in the last slide is directly from the Law of One. So this, what I find fascinating about this information is these are beings who have lived it all. And the question was, more or less, how do we practice white magic? How can we be more effective? And the raw beings say, well, we can't give you details because we need to respect the law of free will, but we can give you some information. So this is direct information from these beings, and I'm fascinated by this stuff. So anytime you ask the raw beings a question, here's how they answer. I am Ra. Every time. I am Ra. It is possible for what you term white magic to be worked for the purpose of altering only the self or the place of working. So in other words, you can affect yourself get rid of negative things in your life or whatever, or you can clear and make your house or your room a magical place. This is done in the knowledge that to aid the self in polarization towards love and light is to aid the planetary vibration. In other words, positive, it's beneficial. High tides raises all boats. So when you raise your vibration, you raise the vibration around you and other people and so forth. So that's the point. So I love this. This is the details. Here we go. So what are the things that you can do to become more magical, to start a magical practice? Number one, a special place of working, preferably constructed by the practitioner, but it doesn't have to be. So you assign a special place. It can be outside, it could be indoors. But the idea is when you set aside a special place for working on magical things, healing things, whatever you want, your work will become more effective and powerful if you have a designated place. Some of you have altars, some of you have a special room in the house, a meditation room or whatever. That's it. Number two, a signal or a key, such as a ring or to summon the magical personality. In other words, they're talking about something like a ring or an amulet. They're saying just set something aside that, you'll be wearing this necklace or this bracelet or this ring every time you're doing the magic. And that when you put it on, it's to help empower you. They're saying this is real stuff. When you set aside a ring to be used for magical purposes, and then you don it, D-O-N, for the purpose, it enhances the effectiveness of the magic. I love it. Special clothing worn only for the workings. So this is something that I've started to do with my energy sessions. I actually use special crystals. I put on special clothing, and I always have these certain amulets that I wear for protection and so forth. But I do this myself right now. A series of ritual sound vibratory complexes. Okay, this is how the raw beings speak. They could have just said words. That's what they mean. A series of words. So in other words, a chant or a song or any kind of utterance designed to create the desired mental distortion. That means, let me translate. You sing a song, a chant, magic words to get you in the state of magic. That's all they're talking about. It could be a prayer. But so if you do all these things, you got a special place, you got a special ring, you got a special shirt, and you say a special preamble before you do the work, that's it. And then the final thing is easy. You set an intention. And this is what Wendy and I both do in our healing practices. We set an intention for the session prior to doing it. So anyway, I think this is fascinating stuff. This is how to use alchemy and to become more effective in your magical work. This is from the beings that know about it. Do these things. These are things to ramp up your effectiveness.
And it's a great outline, Gregg, for essentially any spiritual practice, kind
Agreed.
of the way the steps are, laid out like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to knock this down, and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to check to see if we have any questions at this point, because we've been okay. Okay, so Mary has a comment she made. While this makes sense, I wonder if connection to the higher self requires an alignment of energy between the heart and the crown. So let me see if I understand the comment. I wonder if connection to the higher self requires, an alignment of energy between the heart and the crown. Well, yes. And so alignment or even removal of blocks are definitely required sometimes before you can make the proper connection to your
with your higher self
or oversoul.
Or oversoul, right,
yeah.
right. And
Exactly.
I think of our chakras when they're healthy and they're moving. I just think that that's creating that natural alignment, as well as the pranic tube. And then also, we our connections and how we're meant to connect can change over time. Greg and I just found that out this past Monday because I'd been connecting with my higher self through my crown every morning for, at this point, several years. And we found that I was experiencing vertigo. I couldn't get grounded. And as you and I did the session, we were finding that there was a new way, since I'd raised my vibration, that I needed to connect through the center of my back and kind of going in, through the back of the heart. So it just changes over time. So that's fine.
The comment that I see. Um, so we're at the top of the hour now.
Okay.
Anyway, we're through the
Well,
deck.
I'd just like to make one quick comment. Anybody that's watching live today or that catches this today, my first book, Regression Healing 1, is on sale. You can download it directly from Amazon for just 99 cents on Kindle. So just wanted to bring that to people's attention. And what the book is, it's an actual past life regression session that I facilitated for a soulmate that was very powerful. And he was able to physically release pain in a very, very major way. And it was through the power of forgiveness. So that was the lesson for both of us. So, kind of tying back into what Gregg said again. So please go to Amazon if you want to download that today for 99 cents, today being Sunday, December 13th. And you're able to request a complimentary 15-minute phone appointment with me if you'd like to learn more about what I might be able to offer you, and just let me know how you're doing at this point. And my website again is wendyrosewilliams.com.
Thank you, Wendy. Awesome. And you can come visit me, greggkirk.com. I also have written a book. You can check it out. Just go to my website to look to sign up for the healing events that we do every Sunday, and also check out my book, The Gratitude Curve. And but also check out our website, Wendy's and my website, wakingupspiritually.com. So this broadcast you will be able to see here in about a few hours if you click the broadcast link on wakingupspiritually.com. So please come and visit us there. You can interact with us, send us an email, contact us. Let us know if you have an idea for a future broadcast. We'd love to hear it.
Yes, that would be great. And you can also join us live the second and fourth Friday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern via our Facebook group, which is Waking Up Spiritually. So this broadcast runs in there live, and you can comment and interact, or via the Zoom, and then find them via the archives. So thank you so much, and happy holidays to everyone.
God bless. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.